Ladies and gentlemen, you will be happy to know that Microsoft's business is doing better than ever. Just want to say a huge thank you to all of the supporters and patrons of this channel. By becoming a member or a patron, you help support the news that we bring and also allow me to do even more in the future. So huge shout out to all of you. Thank you. Anyways, enjoy the video. Bye. In fact, according to Satya Nadella, the company has made 245 billion US dollars in annual revenue, up 16% year over year, and over 109 billion in operating income, up 24%. That's brilliant, and I'm very happy for all the billionaires working at Microsoft, or at least those working in the top positions of Microsoft. It is not so great when you learn that Microsoft is firing a bunch of people. Now, I know the correct term here is laying off a bunch of people, because fire is such a harsh word, and harsh words really makes us feel bad. We don't like it. So it's much better if we just say laid off instead. Now, the layoffs are not unexpected at all, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's just focus on the things that actually matter. What we know so far is that Microsoft is starting a process now to fire up to 3% of its entire staff. That's about 7,000 people that they want to let go of in this financial year. This, of course, comes off the back of 10,000 people that were fired last year, which is not a silly number, but of course, it still only represents a fraction of the total workforce for Microsoft. Now, Phil Spencer had the following to say: "I recognize that these changes come at a time when we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before," Spencer wrote. This should be contentious, and the reason for it is a lot of the games that he's referring to would be on Xbox Game Pass, and not all of those games are actually from Microsoft, but they still count as ours. Our platform hardware and game roadmap have never looked stronger. The success we're seeing currently is based on tough decisions we've made previously." So basically referring to the 10,000 people that they fired last year. "We must make choices now for continued success in future years, and a key part of that strategy is the discipline to prioritize the strongest opportunities. We will protect what is thriving and concentrate efforts on areas with the greatest potential, while delivering on the expectations the company has for our business. This focused approach means we can deliver exceptional games and experiences for players for generations to come." Now, don't get me wrong, I am not against companies laying people off. It is sad when people lose their jobs, but oftentimes you do have to make very tough decisions in a sort of landscape where things might be changing faster than what you're ready to receive it. What I don't like is the sort of humble bragging that's going on as a result, like just before this is happening. So as an employee is getting their email going bye-bye, they're also reading that this is the greatest time in the history of Microsoft ever. That's never a good feeling. Now, of course, the article and the writer of the article, Mr. Andy Chalk, does make it very clear in this area here that he doesn't agree at all with any of this. And I do want to say to the gaming journalists, a lot of this is on your heads. You guys continuously sort of glazed the games coming out of Microsoft, and fundamentally, every single time these games failed, you just moved on to the next game that you can glaze, and never actually gave these companies the feedback that would have helped them. When we look, for example, across the charts, it's not hard to see why Microsoft may actually have said, maybe it's time for us to move on. Maybe we have to do some changes here. It's not all bad. You had Stalker 2, although it did launch in a very bad state. It did have a decent amount of players at the time. And of course, Oblivion also had a decent amount of players. But I think it's a little worrying when you see that massive, massive dip that just sort of never came back. But fundamentally, it's not hard to see why Microsoft is letting people go. It's very difficult in the gaming space to argue that Microsoft's developers actually know what they're doing and actually make good or decent games. So I expect to see a lot more of this. And fundamentally, I believe we're going to see a lot more layoffs just happening in general for as long as companies like Microsoft continue to focus on the modern politics push or activism in video games. As long as that's continuously happening, we will continuously see games come out, games fail to make any sort of inroads into the zeitgeist of the gaming community. And of course, people like Mr. Andy Chalk will continuously glaze any and all modern day gaming videos or gaming games that come out of companies like Microsoft and then rail against the machine when these companies ultimately fire people for not performing. This is a sad time. No one likes to see people lose their jobs, but what can you do? Fundamentally, there are a number of people who work for these studios who are not good developers. The only hope we can have is that those are the developers that they're getting rid of and not the good ones. Although most of the time with these companies, it's a last in, first out sort of approach to layoffs. So yeah, it is what it is. Now you know. Let me know in the comment section down below how you feel about this entire thing. Do you agree, disagree? Do you have hope for the future and Microsoft? Do you think the modern day politics is going to make its way out of the gaming space? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, hit the like if you liked it, if you didn't. And I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.